You were watching the news today.
Once again.
And, like, you were just, like, wondering, is this it? Is that it? Is democracy over after that? I mean, seeing what's gone down over the past 4 years is shocking. And we're growing up with it. We're seeing it firsthand. And the people that aren't able to formulate opinions on it like us, that's the example that these people raiding the Capitol are setting for us, for Gen Z, for the next generation. So what you are about to hear is the unbiased perspective on the Capitol Hill riots today from 3 teenage boys. It is approximately 15 minutes after 6 o'clock on Wednesday, January 6th, and I can confidently say that all three of us are in shock. What our country and democracy have turned into is just fascinating. You guys know the drill. We're the Clueless podcast. We bring you guys new content from our perspective, from our teenage brains every Thursday. However, this Thursday isn't all that fun. Dennis, go ahead with your spiel.
We could be found on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at The Clueless Show, and on Facebook at clueless.show.
You can listen to us on YouTube at Clueless, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts at The Clueless Podcast.
Before we get into this, I would like to say that by any means, the three of us, we are not experts. We are just children living in America with an educated
Here to offer our
perspective,
opinions.
and we're here to offer our opinions. We did, as much research as we could do in an hour. Some of us have been watching the news, and we know what's going on, and we would like to offer our opinions. So basically, just to give you guys like an overview, today was the day of the Georgia Senate runoff elections, which resulted in the Democrats winning 2 seats in the U.S. Senate, as well as the day that Joe Biden's electoral votes were going to be confirmed. I think, I don't really know too much about that, but the main point, later in the day, like, supporters of President Trump raided Capitol Hill and made their way through barricaded glass doors and into the Senate. This resulted in Senator and House members having to be evacuated from the area so that they would be safe. Many of their offices were invaded by these protesters, and objects were broken and stolen. After all, luckily the senators rescued the Electoral College ballots that were being confirmed from the Senate's floor. If this hadn't happened, we could have literally watched our democracy be burned away by these protesters. And it's just crazy to think about.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And it's really scary, too, just to think, like, that these people came the police and that they couldn't, like, for a period of time before it died down a little bit, that they couldn't stop it. They broke in. That is just crazy.
I also heard that nobody was, like, getting arrested. Like, I know one woman got shot, but
Yeah.
that was one article published, an hour ago?
I believe, I don't know, yeah. I know one person was severely injured because they were shot. But going back to your point, Dennis, it's scary that one of the highest authority of our nation is being raided by people in our nation, and we're not giving our sides here in terms of presidential candidates, but in 2 weeks Joe Biden will be inaugurated, and right now the fact is Trump is still the president, and he hasn't tried to stop this. He said our election was stolen from us. He's continued to go back on that point, and he hasn't forgot about that. All he cares about is the fact that the election was stolen from him. He doesn't care about that he's still an American citizen and that our democracy is being scratched away. That's what's important.
It's like America is being toppled over right now, like the fall of America right now.
Mm-hmm.
But recall of 2020,
Yeah.
3 days ago last year, it felt like America was going to be toppled again. So, and now
It's
we're
weird.
through the World War III scare when we bombed Iran's general.
We were starting 2021 off good, and now it's just kind of like we're all in shock.
Yeah.
I mean, you were
Yeah.
watching the news
Yeah,
today,
once again.
and like you were just like wondering, is this it? Is that it? Is democracy over after that? I mean, and also like I was talking to my grandparents on the phone today, and obviously they've lived in this country for over 70 years, been American citizens for their whole lives.
Oh yeah, my grandma called me
And
too.
seeing this has put them in shock. Seeing what's gone down over the past 4 years is shocking, and we're growing up with it. We're seeing it firsthand, and the people that aren't able to formulate opinions on it like us, that's the example that these people raiding the Capitol are setting for us, for Gen Z, for the next generation to make this country, do better than what it is doing now. Everyone talks about that, it's up to the next generation. We need to set an example for the next generation, and that is not being done right now.
Yeah, completely. I think it's just completely ridiculous that Trump hasn't come out and said, like, guys, you need to stop it. He's encouraging people to keep on protesting, but peacefully. I mean, it is legal to protest, but at this point, I tweet
Not
or something.
violently and break into
Right.
government officials' buildings.
Essentially, he
Government
keeps saying,
buildings.
let's keep law and order, but
That's not what's happening.
he
No, not at all.
he has to say
Exact
that
opposite,
for his
actually.
image. He has to
I
say that
believe
for his
that-
image.
I believe that he wants to see the topple of democracy
America?
right now. The topple of America.
And it's all because of him.
right
It's
now.
all because of
Yeah.
him. And listen, guys, we can't even vote right now. So
Yeah.
technically,
We'll be able to vote in the next
our-
election.
Yeah, technically our opinions
Yeah.
don't matter. So you shouldn't be
But
getting
they
mad at
do.
us for voicing it. And that's the problem. People are so scared to voice their opinions in this country, and that's a horrible thing. And they're scared to voice it because stuff that happens like today, people being scared of getting violated with violence because they don't agree. We have to work together. Democrats and Republicans have to come together. We are one nation. This is a civil war that's going on right now. It's not okay.
Yeah, it's completely insane. I mean, I'm just wondering at this point if the East and the West are gonna break out again, or the South, would it be?
Yeah, South. South. Speaking of that,
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis, go with your point.
Yeah. So I was thinking like not officially, but we are living in a civil war right now between the
Yeah.
two political parties, and that's just crazy
Crazy.
to think about. That we're so divided as a nation, the most divided we've actually ever been.
And
Yeah.
so I saw a picture on like one of the news accounts of some guy walking through the building with the Confederate flag. And this just shows what people are thinking right now, like we just said, a civil war. And by going back to what we said before, by our president not trying to stop it, and people are calling upon him to stop it. The senators, Mitch McConnell, I believe,
He could
did.
stop it with one tweet. I saw so many
Yeah,
people saying that
Exactly.
across all
Lindsey
platforms.
Graham.
But he
These
won't.
people are holding up his propaganda. They will listen to whatever the fuck he says.
Yeah.
And essentially, when these people are putting up nooses, which they have, there's pictures of that, carrying around Confederate flags, they're standing up for the racism that still does exist in this country. And people, say all the time, Trump isn't a racist. There's no evidence that you can provide with that. And while there's no first-hand evidence, there's second-hand assumptions that you can clearly make. Just like this, by him not putting a stop to this, with these people, a lot of them carrying the nooses and the Confederate flag, shows how there's still racism in this country. And it's not okay.
Yes, that
No
is very true.
way, shape, or form is racism should still be accepted. There's none of it.
I was about to look up Civil War parties of whatever the year was in, because I wanted to know like the parties. I know it was the Yankees and the Confederates now, right? Was that it?
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm not
I
sure.
started looking it up, and I looked up into Google, just civil, and Civil War 2021 just came up, which is, it's just fucking insane how everyone has just come to the assumption that we're actually part of a civil war right now. We're in a civil war.
Yeah, and
Which
that
is, I
narrative
don't know,
is
to me
just
that's
going to keep
insane.
growing.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's scary.
Yeah.
What? How did one man that this country somehow elected, how, you know, how did that change? And it's also just, it falls back on what we talked about in our last episode. And I just wanted to say that we initially recorded an episode for this week, and we're going to touch on what we said in our last episode. And that's why
But
we're
it's really
going to
be your next episode.
But it's really going to be your next
Yeah.
episode, exactly. And it goes back onto that. People just being properly educated, and so, knowing the history of this nation, that's important. Like, even though we shitted on the education system, it is important. Stuff like,
It's
knowing
extremely
our nation's
important.
history, knowing, slavery, especially in classes like English and history, what we're learning right now, that stuff is extremely important, and every citizen should have the deepest understanding of that. It's extremely
That is
important.
completely true.
for the
And this
future
is
of our
this is
nation.
just a prime example of it, because nobody, I mean nobody would ever want a civil war in their country. I mean, how would you feel if where we live was just the battlegrounds for a war? Like, we would have to get up and move,
And it's
it'd a
supposed to be
dangerous
one of the
time.
best nations in the world, and we've just come to this. And
Right
it's
now.
terrible.
Right now, yeah.
Right.
Right now, I feel as though we're about to be toppled. Honestly, like,
Yeah, who knows
I'm
what's
not
gonna
sure
happen next.
if we got like, I'm not sure if we got like attacked right now, then we would be able to be fighting back, because we have our own civil war in our country.
Yeah, that's so true. We're in such disarray, and who knows? I mean, we're all not experts on this, but who knows if a country's looking at our internal dysfunction and just looking at that as an opportunity to attack us, because
Strike,
our National Guard and our army is focused on having people not blow up Joe Biden's inauguration in 2 weeks. How is that going to happen?
Yeah.
How is Joe
Yeah.
Biden? How is the next president of the United States? Whether you like him or not, we have to have a president. How is he going to be inaugurated peacefully and not be assassinated or crazy stuff that's going to happen? I was talking to Ari
That
on the
is
phone,
completely true.
and he said, before this episode, Ari said, what if they just did it in a basement? And I was like, yeah, that's the safest way. But that's breaking
Yeah.
American tradition, and we shouldn't have to break
Completely.
American tradition because of these idiots that are rioting and being stupid, don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah.
The only way you can help is by supporting Joe Biden and giving him the confidence that he can know that he can peacefully work together with the Republicans
To help unify the nation.
Yeah.
to help unify the nation and address the issues that are so concerning right now, such as climate change, pro-life, pro-choice, COVID,
Yeah.
all that type of stuff.
I mean, they're carrying around Confederate flags. That is
Oh, yeah.
fucking ridiculous and disgusting to me.
It's disgusting.
Like, as Jared touched upon it before, racism should not be a thing in this country. It should not be accepted anymore. And they're just blatantly carrying around fucking Confederate flags. I mean, to me, I think that should be a hate crime and they should be arrested on the spot.
For
but-
sure.
For sure.
Oh yeah, one
But-
of Trump's tweets said something like, "If you are destroying like official government statues, well, maybe not government, but something like that, you must have at least 10 years in prison." And now look what's happening.
And that's what I wanted
Yeah.
to get into. That's going to be a huge topic on this episode today. So, if we flash back to June and like May, when the Black Lives Matter protests started happening, and people were, concerned about businesses being vandalized and Confederate structures being knocked down, and Donald Trump said exactly what Dennis just relayed. And they were concerned about that, and now you have Trump's supporters coming into the fucking Senate, stealing the Senate podium thing. I don't know what it's called. Like, the podium where they put the microphone, the official Senate badge on it. He was carrying it out. And how if you're saying this is disgraceful, these Black Lives Matter protests, how does that add up? Like, how does
Look what's happening
like
with your own party.
Yeah.
and I wanted to read something from that I feel like that could explain it better than me, because this is from a black person's perspective, and it's something that the NBA basketball star Ray Allen posted on his Instagram, and this is from a black person living in America today's perspective, and I feel like it really brings it all out, and this is where my point kind of came from. So he stated, when a black person was killed by police, many of you were only angry that there was rioting and looting going on. You didn't care about a man losing his life, but you cared about a building being looted or painted. And now one of the most famous buildings in the world is being looted by the right-wing mob. And let me guess, Trump supporters aren't mad about this? Oh right, Trump supporters can riot, protest, and loot, and no one else. Why is no one on the right condemning this, and why is President-elect Trump silent all of a sudden? And
Yeah.
also, we just got a report from CBS.
It's crazy to think
that-
like
Yeah, hold on. A woman was shot during the pro-Trump protest inside the U.S. Capitol, and she has died. That's karma.
Is that the first death in the Capitol?
I don't know. Maybe.
Would that be the first death in the Capitol?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's crazy to think that some people are so stupid. Like
Yeah.
the Republican Party. Well, no, not that. Trump supporters. It's like a cult that they have.
Yeah.
They just listen to their leader and they just believe anything that he says. And that goes back to the point that he could have stopped this entire thing with one tweet, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And also, like,
Let me check.
obviously, it's no secret that a lot of these people, you just look, these are white males and females, white supremacists that live in this country that are raiding the Capitol right now. And today in school, we were preparing for a Socratic seminar, which is basically a debate in our class. And one of the questions was, do sports and politics mix? And obviously, it's no secret that many of the sports players that bring politics into their field, into sports, and use their platforms for it, are African Americans, especially in basketball. And one of the, examples I used is LeBron James. And, some people agree that he should use his platform to push this narrative out, and the obvious narrative that racism is awful and it should stop in this country and Black lives do matter. And some people are saying you're uneducated, you have no say. The politicians only have say. So my rebuttal to this is that LeBron grew up, and many people like him grew up poor, African Americans, in the streets of cities like Akron, Ohio, like LeBron did. And they've experienced racism. They've experienced what it likes to be, going through the mud and being in a marginalized group. And these white supremacists that take the other side on that issue don't know what it's like. They say racism doesn't exist. They don't know what it's like because they haven't experienced it. And that's something that I think the whole country's eyes need to be opened up to. And I think it's just disgusting. The shit that happens.
Completely true. I mean, I don't think there's any way for those people to experience what the black community that grew up or is growing up in
It relates to white privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way for privileged white people to see like the error and the
What it's like to be a
racism
person
in this
of color.
community. Yeah.
You don't know what it feels like for someone to have COVID until you have COVID. It's the same thing about
the same
being
thing.
white and
Yeah.
being black. It's
You don't know what it's like being on the side of Trump, like agreeing with him, unless you're on the side of
That's
Trump.
true.
On the side of Biden with the same thing. With anything in it, the only person or the only people that can experience something is if you're experiencing it. There's no way to describe it like that. Is there?
No. And
Yeah.
I forget what senator called it this, but he said this is un-American, and it is un-American.
Oh, I
Like,
saw
and
that.
he was
I
a
saw that
Republican senator. Republican senator. At this point, even the Republican senators who are educated are starting to forget that that even though Trump lost, they're starting to remember that this is one nation. There's nothing we can do about that because that would be that would not support our democracy to go and find Trump votes like he requested from the election official in Georgia. If you didn't hear that leaked call the other day, that he was like asking for the Georgia election official to find him 11,000 votes and pressuring him.
And that's
And
a
thank
whole
God
other
that,
issue.
yeah, and thank God that guy had the balls to stand up to him because a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. He is so
Yeah.
manipulative, and it's a problem. Um, Anyways, what was I saying before? Oh yeah, it's about democracy. We're one nation. We have to work together. Democrats and Republicans have to work together to restore the integrity and the soul of this nation. And that's something I heard, like my grandpa say, Joe Biden, people who have lived in this country for almost 80 years and have never seen it like this before.
Yeah. I mean,
hurtful.
just think about the pledge. One nation under
One
God,
nation.
indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Liberty and justice. But I mean, I don't see those two happening right now. I don't think we're one nation right now. I think we're
Yeah.
two halves. I think we're two halves divided. I mean, the fucking Confederate flag is resurfacing and it's in the Capitol building right now.
Right.
I already touched upon this, but I think that is just disgusting.
And the problem with that is that we have a president that tells the Proud Boys to stand back, or we had a president that tells them to stand back and stand by. And
Yeah.
that's going to reflect on this nation forever. And it's a problem. It's scary. It's bad. If you're still standing up to this guy's bullshit, you have to fucking open your eyes. Like, I see people reposting that post that he posted on Twitter. And we touched on that earlier. It got deleted. That's why we can't play it for you. We were going to. Essentially, he said, law and order, we do it peacefully, but he didn't order them to leave. And like we said, he has the power to make them all leave because he's their leader. They follow whatever he does. And I think if you gotta have that third perspective. You gotta just look back at it, be open-minded, and just cut the bullshit. There's more important things than worrying about one fucking guy. We're a democracy.
Yeah.
Many people run this nation, not one person. We cannot let him control the future of this nation. It's unacceptable.
Yeah. It almost seems as though he wants this to become a tyranny. I mean,
Or a dictatorship.
or a dictatorship. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that he would love to control the military more. I mean, he didn't he call the strike on Iran? Was that him last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure he loves all that power. This is a completely unbiased statement, but
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm sure he loves all that power coming to him, and I can't support either of them right now, or I won't tell you who I support. But I'm absolutely sure that he didn't want the presidency for like improving the country. All he wanted was the power.
Yeah, and he keeps saying America first. It's not true. He doesn't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, look at COVID. All he cared about was himself. All he cared about is him staying safe. His top priority was winning this election, which he didn't do, by the way, during COVID. I'm sure that was his top priority, not protecting the country.
Right, and I would like to say that we're obviously shitting on Trump here right now. We're obviously not supportive of him right now, but the thing I would like to say is that we obviously couldn't vote in the last two elections. We're young teenagers, and we're seeing what our country's going through firsthand, and we essentially have no say but our opinions to be out there and in people's minds. we're not taking any of this from our parents. In fact, I know when my parents formulate their opinions, I always, when I disagree with them, I make it known. So I'm not, being brainwashed by them or any means. These are our 14-year-old opinions as teenagers living in America, and they're not. It's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful.
I don't really talk that much politics. I'm not that great at talking about politics. That's why I stayed mostly quiet for this episode. But I just want to put it out there that it's crazy that this is all is happening, and we have to unify as a nation.
Yeah. And I do. So I feel like I kind of went over my points, but we still have time here. So if you guys want to say anything, go ahead. Because
I think I covered most of my points.
Yeah.
I wanted to just say that, like I said, at this point, it's not about who you support anymore. And even though we're voicing our opinions right now, it's clear that there needs to be a change. And I know Joe Biden's obviously coming in, but who knows if that's enough? Who knows what's going to happen with that? We can't, let's have a peaceful inauguration here and, just move on with this country and restore this nation,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's time to be open-minded, and just because you supported Trump or supported Biden all these years, open your eyes up to the different perspective and look at the different perspective. I encourage you all. And then see that there's two different perspectives in this nation and that we need to bring them together. It's plain and simple,
If you're a Trump supporter, if you're a Biden supporter, it's time to unite. Please, just put aside your differences until this is all washed over. We won't revisit this anymore, and something like this could never happen again.
Yeah.
Because this is ridiculous. I mean, that woman that died, that could have very well been the first death in the Capitol building. To me, that's pretty crazy.
And it's important, though, I feel like, to, go and look back on, harsh times in our nation, and I feel like maybe we even haven't done that enough. We touch on it briefly in social studies classes and history classes, but maybe we need to do it more, and maybe that this past generation that you see going into the White House now wasn't taught that, and that's why they're doing it. I was talking to my dad, I think it was my dad, a couple weeks ago, and we were saying how someone that lives in California and someone that lives in Texas is probably learning about history very differently, as Texas is the South where Confederacy happened, and those roots are still there. They're still there. Obviously, not everyone, but they're still there, and things are still being manipulated in a certain way, and the education to these people isn't being brought about correctly. And that's why this is a problem.
I know this isn't our usual form of events in this Clueless episode. Thank you for listening for episode 3. Next week, toxic friends. If you're not a usual
teenage
listener,
dating
thank
next
you for
week.
listening.
Teenage dating.
Oh, teenage dating. I thought it was
And then toxic friends.
And then it's
And then
toxic friends.
friends.
Some funny stories on that episode,
Yeah.
so stay tuned for that. Hopefully, we can brighten up the mood with that episode. Today was a little satire,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
I don't think satire is the
right.
right word, but
Wait, is it? What's the right word then?
I don't know.
I don't even know
It
what
was
satire
down.
really means.
The energy wasn't very
What is?
Depressing.
Hold on, I'm gonna look up the definition of satire. I probably got it completely wrong.
Yeah, I think you definitely did. I think.
Oh, never mind. It's the complete fucking opposite. It's the use of humor, irony, and exaggeration. That is for the next episode. Today was a little. Today's a little bit
it's
of a
definitely not
disappointing mood.
satire.
Yeah, definitely not. That's next week's episode, and all of our other episodes will be completely satire, as that is the kind of people we are.
Thank you all for listening so much. If you're a new listener listening about politics, I really hope you like this one. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
And
Drop a
remember
like
to
and subscribe.
rate us 5 stars on
Oh,
Apple
also,
Podcasts.
5 stars. Follow.
Also, some like information I forgot to relay, that I relayed in the episode that we recorded.
Relay.
This yesterday. For initially for this week. This is kind of like a instant quick episode that we had to get up. But I wanted to say we give our shout out for the person that followed us on Spotify and sub to our YouTube in the next episode. If you want to get that shout out, follow our Spotify or rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you do that and screenshot it and DM that to us as proof, we will shout you out on our Instagram and in the next episode. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and
Maybe not the next
subscribe.
episode because the next episode's already recorded, but the next.
Yeah, the next. Subscribe, and when you do subscribe, comment I subscribe to join the Clueless gang. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed our perspectives. Anything else, boys?
I think we're good.
I think we're good. All right. See you next week. Peace.